Thomas Comes to Breakfast. Written by the Reverend W. Awdry, also very loosely based on Near Miss by Christopher Awdry and Edward's Exploit by the Reverend W. Awdry. Book adaptation by Random House Publishing, illustrated by Owen Bell. After rescuing James, the red mixed traffic engine following his crash into a cow field, Sir Topham Hatt, controller of the railway, gave Thomas the Tank Engine his very own branch line, which runs from Knapford to Farquhar. The little blue engine has worked the line now for many years and knows it very well. "You know just where to stop, Thomas," his driver remarked one day. "You could almost manage it without me." This made Thomas conceited. He didn't realize his driver was only joking. Later, he boasted about it. "Driver says I don't need him now," he told the others. "Don't be so daft," snorted Percy. "I'd never go without my driver," added Toby earnestly. "I'd be frightened." "Pah!" boasted Thomas. "I'm not scared." "You'd never dare," they exclaimed. "I would then. You'll see." It was dark next morning when the firelighter came to get the engines ready. He lit a fire in Thomas's firebox and slowly built up steam. Thomas drowsed comfortably as the warmth spread through his boiler. So much so, in fact, that he didn't know that the firelighter, who thought it would be fun, decided to pretend to be an engine driver. He released the brakes and opened the regulator a little ways, but nothing happened. Disappointed, he carried on with his duties before leaving. Thomas woke again in daylight. Percy and Toby were still asleep. Suddenly he remembered. "Silly stick-in-the-muds," he chuckled to himself. "I'll show him. Driver said I can manage without him, so I'll just go out, then I'll stop and wheesh! That'll make him jump." He could feel steam trickling into his pistons, so cautiously he first tried one, then the other, then very quietly rolled out through the open shed doors. Thomas thought he was being clever, but really he was only moving because the careless cleaner had fiddled with his taps and levers. He soon found his mistake. He tried to wheesh, but he couldn't. He tried to stop, but he couldn't do that either. He just kept rolling along. "The buffers will stop me," he thought hopefully. But the siding he was on had no buffers. It just ended at a road adjacent to a series of houses behind a row of bushes in front of a brown picket fence. Thomas crashed through the hedges and fence, his wheels crunching the tarmac. He didn't dare look at what was coming next, for ahead was the station master's house. The station master was just sitting down to breakfast with his family. They were enjoying their favorite of ham and eggs with toast, butter, jam, milk, and tea. "Horrors!" shrieked Thomas and shut his eyes. The house rocked, broken glass tinkled, plaster flew everywhere, and guess whose smokebox was poking through the window? Thomas had collected a bush on his travels. He peered anxiously into the room through its leaves. He couldn't speak. The station master was furious. He angrily strode outside, shut off Thomas's steam, and surveyed the remains of his ruined garden. Back inside, his wife had some choice words for the little blue engine. "You miserable engine!" she scolded, showing him a broken plaster-covered plate. "Just look what you've done to our breakfast! Now I shall have to make some more!" She stormed off to the kitchen, banging the door as she went. More plaster fell, this time on Thomas. They finished their breakfast in the kitchen, leaving Thomas severely alone. Thomas was depressed. An egg, sunny side up, had landed on his nose during the crash. It tickled. He wanted to sneeze, but he didn't dare in case the rest of the house caved in on him. Nobody came near him for a very long time. Everyone was much too busy. At last, workmen arrived and set to work. Some of them propped up the house with strong poles, while others laid a row of sleepers and a pair of old rails through the garden. Then, the Caledonian twin-engine Donald and Douglas arrived. "Play fast yourself, Thomas. We'll soon have you back on the rails," they said. It was hard work, but after much puffing and pulling, the twins dragged Thomas back into the yard. His funnel was bent, bits of fencing, the bush, and a broken window frame festooned his front, which was badly twisted. He looked comic. The twins laughed as they left him. "Goodbye, Thomas," they called. "Dinna forget your driver next time." As they hadn't room for him at the works then, Percy shunted Thomas into a siding to wait till he could go. His crew shook their heads as workmen began cleaning him up. "You are a disgrace," they said disappointedly. "We are ashamed of you." "As am I," came a familiar, stern-sounding voice. "You're just as bad as the cleaner I sacked after he confessed to what he did." "I know, sir. I'm sorry, sir." Thomas's voice was muffled behind the bush. "You must go to the works to have your funnel replaced and front straightened. It will be a long job." "Yes, sir." "Meanwhile, a Metropolitan Vickers Diesel Electric Type 2 named Boko will come to do your work." "Diesel, sir?" Thomas spluttered in shock. "Yes, Thomas," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Diesels always stay in their shed till they are wanted. They never gallivant off to breakfast in station masters' houses." And he turned on his heel and walked away. After Thomas left, Boko came as promised. The other steam engines were skeptical of him at first, but gradually he won them over with his sparkling personality and sense of humor. Donald and Douglas were the last to accept him. They were not particularly trusting of diesels, but quickly changed their tune after Boko proved to be a big help in aiding them with their goods trains. "For a diesel," they were heard to say that day, "John Boko's not such a bad sort of engine." That, from a pair of Caledonian twin engines, is high praise indeed. After several weeks of repair, Thomas finally came home with good as new. "It feels nice to be mending again. But," he admitted, "I took away so many old parts and put new ones in. I'm not sure if I'm really me or another engine." The others laughed and just said he was being silly. Thomas is a much wiser engine now, knowing better than to think he can manage without his driver. Especially if it's a visit to the breakfast table. You have been listening to Thomas Comes to Breakfast, based on the story by the Reverend W. Audrey, adapted and read for audio by Scheme Man, with sound effects by Jim 522, GW Shunter, and Sound Dogs. Music was composed by Michael Donnell, Junior Campbell, Takanori Alizawa, and Shinji Miyazaki. Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends is based on the Railway series by the Reverend W. and Christopher Audrey, with all rights reserved by Hit Entertainment and Mattel Creations.